I think what's interesting about two of these matchups, if there's, I've learned a lot, obviously, from Ken Barkley in the futures markets, but if there's one thing I've learned in college sports, it's that he says it all the time. You cannot get worse and win the following year, right? So Virginia is obviously one of those teams, and Florida is one of those teams that you have to look at for this year's College World Series. So I'm fading both of those two teams in their game ones. I like North Carolina, minus 140 against Virginia. I will say that is a game that I would wait to bet live. Both of those teams love playing one-run games. It's just what they do. Every North Carolina, every Virginia game comes down to the wire. So naturally, them playing each other, I don't think is going to change that. If at any point one of these teams is like a plus 2.5, 3.5, whatever it may be on a run line, bet it because it will come down to the wire. But I do like North Carolina to win a close one. I like them minus 140. Florida State is probably my favorite bet, Nick, in the first round. And I love this matchup for them. Something that people need to know, a storyline to watch, is that Florida State's manager is Link Jarrett. And he was the manager of Notre Dame a couple years ago when Tennessee was the number 1 overall seed. And Link Jarrett's Notre Dame team went into Knoxville and beat them in the Super Regional. So he knows all about beating a really good number 1 overall seed Tennessee team. Plus, you obviously have the curse of the number 1 seed and the fact that only one team's done it in the last 25 years. But he said it. It looks like Arnold's probably going to start for the Seminoles. They're on a heater right now. Their offense is scoring a ton of runs. They're pitching really well, and I love their manager. And all the pressure is going to be on Tennessee, a team that relies heavily on the home run ball. And when you get to this ballpark in Omaha, you just can't do that. So I like the Seminoles plus 125. I like NC State plus 110 against Kentucky as well. Nick, I said it when Jake, myself, and Ken were previewing the college baseball tournament. I was telling them, I said, fellas, it's the year of the wolf. We had NC State men and women college basketball both made it to the Final Four. We had the Minnesota Timberwolves make it to the Final Four in the NBA. The NC State Wolfpack in college baseball are at least getting us to the Final Four. So we are riding that. Not many people thought they would make it to this point. They proved all those people wrong, and I like their matchup with Kentucky. I agree with Johnny. I'm going to keep fading Kentucky. Oregon State's offense was a complete no-show in that Super Regional against Kentucky. But NC State's offense is playing great. Their pitching's been good enough, so I'll take them plus 110. And then Texas A&M, this is where I disagree with Johnny. I like them against Florida for the reasons I mentioned before. Florida made it to the championship game last year. This team, a lot of people thought shouldn't even be in the tournament to begin with. Credit them for getting back to the College World Series. A&M, I was high. They were my pick coming into the tournament, and their pitching wasn't great against Oregon. They found ways to win those games, and they're going to be without their superstar and one of the best players in the country, and Braden Montgomery, as Johnny was mentioning, which is a little concerning. But I think they're good enough to get by Florida. So I like A&M, NC State, Florida State, and North Carolina. Those are my teams that I'm riding with in round number 1, and I'm in complete agreement here with Johnny. I like Florida State to win the whole thing. I think it's their year. I think they got the manager, they got the pitcher to lead the way, they got the offense that's good enough to do it. And the storyline, as he mentioned, Mike Martin, who's their manager, have been there forever, passes away. I think they're going to get it done for their old manager. So I like the Seminoles plus 800. I think it's good value, and I think they match up with A&M. That would be my exacta. Would be A&M and Florida State to meet in the final.
PJ, very, very confident in his. You hear it in his voice there. It got me really excited to place a bunch of these bets. I'm going to bet Florida State to win the tournament. How could I not? A&M is the second betting favorite, and A&M like a pretty big favorite here against Florida in Game 1. Florida with the longest odds to win the College World Series, but went to the final last year, bowing out against Paul Skeens' Dylan Cruz and LSU. A&M minus 190 in Game 1, Florida plus 145. Do you like an upset here also with the Gators, or is it the Aggies?
No, I like the upset. I'll spare you the little backstory about my Florida opinion throughout the postseason. But basically what you need to know is this. The Gators are trending in the right direction. The Aggies are trending in the wrong direction. They lose their top 5 overall prospect in Braden Montgomery, the Aggies do. It's taking the air out of this A&M lineup. Not to mention, while Ryan Prager is their ace and he's nails, he's been stuttering a little bit over the last few weeks. And the fact is, I just don't know if A&M's got the depth in pitching. And now without Montgomery, I think their offense has some cracks in the armor. And I think Florida's going to have an opportunity with some red-hot pitchers like Liam Peterson, Brandon Neely, and the best player in college baseball, a.k.a. Jack Caglione, the Italian stallion from Tampa, is going to be able to find a way at plus money to get this home. And I think Florida's going to be very dangerous here, guys.
Johnny, give us your winner, who you think wins the College World Series, but also tell us a team that like you wouldn't bet with like our money, a team that you don't think has a chance at winning.
I'll be honest, I don't think Texas A&M has a chance. I wouldn't bet them, and it's a shame because they've been a very good team all year. But one thing I've kept my eye on the last month is their second and third starter in the rotation has been a huge problem. Shane Tadeo, the guy they slotted in from the pen to be their number 2, he left. He has a UCL injury. He's done as well. So I don't know how that's going to carry them. And the thing about A&M, it's funny because the last couple of years, they just seem to run out of pitching, and they'll get a guy out of nowhere that just throws a gem. I'm not shocked if a guy like Justin Lampkin, who was a Sunday guy for most of the year, comes back and does it. But I just think A&M is kind of running out of gas with all these key injuries, and it's just going to be hard. They're going to need somebody to kind of pull a rabbit out of the hat. So I do not believe in the Aggies making that run.
Johnny V, who wins the College World Series?
It's going to be the Florida State Seminoles over the Florida Gators. I think Florida falls short for the second year in a row in the finals, but I do believe ultimately FSU, if they can get out to a hot start and play from the winner's bracket, they're going to be able to do it just because of the star power they have. They have 2 guys going inside the top 15 of this summer's draft with Cam Smith and ACC Player of the Year James Tibbs. And then they're going to have Jamie Arnold, who's going to be the number 1 pitcher off the board next year, maybe a top 5 pick. Just a lot of horsepower here, and I like the way the Seminoles are playing the game under head coach Link Jarrett.
If you agree with Johnny V and you think that's going to be the final, FSU over Florida, 49-1 is the price for FSU over the Gators. Kind of like you to roll through all the game ones like PJ did. Do you agree, disagree, like level of confidence? Give us Jake the Snake's breakdown here, game ones in Omaha.
I'll start with Texas A&M and Florida just because Texas A&M, like Ken was on one side, he was picking Tennessee. He was the one that was saying it's these 2 top teams. They're the clear top teams in this tournament, and he was picking Tennessee. I was on the other side picking Texas A&M the whole way since the tournament started, and now I just have zero faith in them anymore just because of the injuries. I just think it's going to be too much at this point in the game. When you get shot in the foot like that, it just isn't going to help you. And I think that they have a tougher side of the bracket than it looks. Florida is playing awesome. If anybody watched that Clemson-Florida game Sunday, that was the most bananas college baseball game I've watched easily this season, maybe in the last couple of seasons. It was outrageous. It was an all-timer, like PJ just said. And I just don't know how you watch that game and think that Florida doesn't have something here. I know what PJ and Ken say about if you get worse, you can't win. Doesn't mean you can't get back there, and doesn't mean you can't win a couple games and get to the Final Four. I just think that Texas A&M, they're too downtrodden. They've eaten too many punches, and now they're running into a team that's too hot and is catching them at the right time. So I think Florida beats Texas A&M game 1. But listen, Kentucky, I'm so sick of this Kentucky team. I'm going to go down on the Titanic trying to fade this team. They are the worst out of all 8 remaining teams. They are either 7th or 8th in everything that matters. Batting average, on-base percentage, ERA, WHIP, XFIP, everything across the board. This team stinks, baby. But somehow they keep catching teams when these teams just fall asleep or underestimate them, and they pull games out of the hat at the last second and they win. Oregon State let them steal on a passed ball to go up 1 in the 8th inning of that last game, and then Kentucky wins the Super Regional. It's just, I'm so sick of this team. I don't want to see them anymore. And I think NC State gets us on that path, though, because PJ, I've been playing NC State since the opening round. Me and you were on them in the opening round. I was on them in the Super Regional to beat Georgia. And I'm going to keep riding this train. As long as they're plus money, I'm going to play NC State. They have something cooking here. Like Johnny said, they got kind of punked a little bit. They got two-timed. They got double-crossed, honestly, in 2021 when there was a COVID outbreak and they had to forfeit their spot to Vandy in the College World Series.
By COVID-19 or?
By Anthony Fauci. And so anyway, then they go on.
Get in line, I would say, to NC State for that particular thing.
So I really like NC State. All of that being said, I'm going to say I think they keep it going. I think NC State comes out of this region. I think they go to the College World Series. I really like what they have going on. I just don't think that Florida has enough gas. I like their team. Don't think they have enough gas to keep it going all the way. I hate Kentucky, and A&M just has too much to overcome. I like NC State to go all the way. And on the other side, hate Virginia, think they're a bad team, can't believe they made it this far. They're terrible away from home. They have been all year. So don't like Virginia in this spot. I'm going to keep rolling. And I'm between two, honestly. I've not made a decision yet. I'm between UNC and Florida State. And
Jake,
my heart wants to go with UNC.
Hold on a second here. Jake, this is you bet or you bet.
Yeah,
man.
Hold on. I'm gonna get it there.
Hold on. Put your big boy pants on and make a pick here. Stand by it. What's the prediction here?
UNC over NC State is the final, is the exact. Like Johnny said, Vance Honeycutt is on some kind of tear. It's otherworldly. I like what Florida State has going, and they've been dominant all the way up to this point. Something about UNC and how they win these games at the last second, I don't know, man. It's just like, it makes me feel like they just have that magic touch right now. They have the superstar. They have the manager. The pitching scares me a little bit, but you don't need dominant pitching to win in a giant ballpark in Omaha, especially with the conditions. They can hit, they can field, and that's what really matters to me. They have the superstar. I'm going the Tar Heels over the Wolfpack.